welcome back to the first episode of the struggle of 2023. We are going to be covering Leviticus today. So as I said, if you guys didn't catch my video the other day about where I've been, just go check that out. I've decided to take an extended break. But before we get into anything, so I came across these two books. We got Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, and then I also heard about this book just the other day. I just started reading it. As Nature Made Him, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Girl by John Cola Lapinto. Um, so I'm probably gonna be doing some readings on the channel of these two books because the reason why I chose these two books, because political season's coming up. Of course, we got everything going on. Like I said, I'm not really going to be covering politics as far as what the president does. I'm going to be covering politics as more as what impacts you, local policies, and all those sorts of things. So the reason why I picked Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, not only because Saul Alinsky, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton were also students of his, but he actually dedicated this book to the devil. Sorry, this is out of frame. So he actually dedicated this book to the devil, and I'm going to be reading in this book. I'm just going to read the back here. He says this country's leading hellraiser has set down one rule of the game. No one has had more experience and has more success than Alinsky. This is The Nation. First published in 1971, Rules for Radical is Saul Alinsky's impassioned counsel to young radicals. If you guys know my friend and mentor, Zoe, from the Zopium Den, Zoloft, all type of whatever other titles he's had. He'll talk a lot about radicals and rebels. These are actually rebels. They're not radicals. But he writes this book to young radicals and how to affect constructive social change and know the difference between being realistic radical and being heretical, being a heretical one. Written in the midst of a radical political development, those directions, Alinsky was one of the first to question this volume exhibits his style and is best like Thomas Paine before him. Alinsky was able to combine both in person and in writing the intensity of political engagement with the absolute insistence on national political discourse and adherence to the American democratic tradition. Alinsky's techniques and teaching influences generations of community and labor organizers, including the church-based group hiring a young Barack Obama to work on Chicago's South Side in 1980. Alinsky impressed on a young Hillary Clinton who was growing up in Park Ridge at the time. Alinsky was the director of the Industrial Area Foundation in Chicago. And that bottom part right there, where they talked about Obama and Hillary Clinton, that was written by the Chicago Sun-Times. So we're going to be getting into that book. And in this book, As Nature Made Him, on the back it says, in 1967, after twin baby boys suffered a botched circumcision, his family agreed to a radical treatment that will alter his gender. The case would become one of the most famous in modern medicine and a total failure. As Nature Made Him tells the extraordinary story of David Reamer, who, when finally informed his medical history, made the decision to live as a male. The macabre tale of medical arrogance. It is first and foremost a human drama of one man and one family's amazing survival in the face of terrible odds. So that's this book. And the reason why I chose this book, I actually heard about this book from Pastor Vodi Bakum, when he taught in relation to the trans movement that's going on right now. So that's the reason why I picked these two books. I'm going to be doing series on them. They're going to have their own series. I'm going to go chapter by chapter with you guys. If you guys want to join live, ask questions, let me know. If you guys just want me to go ahead and record each chapter and then release them, let me know. But these are the two books, and I think this is going to be something that I'm really going to start doing, because I understand a lot of people don't have time to read books and stuff like that. I know well, now I have more time on my hands to read more books because I'm used to audiobooks. So this is a way for people to get an audiobook because sometimes these books aren't in audio. So a lot of us like to, listen to YouTube and podcasts and stuff like that. Audiobooks on our way home to work. But anyway, so yeah, let's get into Leviticus. So, like I said, I'm going to be getting into. We're going to be jumping back into our Bible study. Let me see here. I don't know why I didn't do this before I got started. How about this? Let me save it first. Sorry, you guys. I'm building it while I fly, as the Godfather Kevin Samuels would say. All right, let's go ahead while that's processing. So we're gonna be doing more of these things. If you guys have any books, trust me, I got a swath of library of books that I've probably started and have forgotten, books that I haven't started and been wanting to. There's a lot of books that I really want to share with you guys that have impacted the way that I think, and that I really think that's going to impact the way you guys think. Especially now that election season's coming, there's a lot of things that's being talked about on the news and local politics about abortions, trans rights, trans youth health crap, trans in the kids, and all types of other stuff. But we're going to get into the one book that actually matters, which is the Bible. Of course, as you guys can see here, I am using the Messianic Jewish Family Bible. This is the Bible right here. Sorry if I hit the mic. The Tree of Life version, TLV. If you guys want to use this, this is my study Bible. This is what I use. Um, but I also have other versions as well. As you guys know, sometimes people ask me, why do you have so many versions? It's because I'm a nerd. And this is my favorite one. It's the Hallelujah Scriptures. Um, this is even more Hebrew heavy than the Messianic Jewish Family Bible. So we're going to go into Leviticus 1. So Leviticus, um, Vayikra, and trust me, my Hebrew is terrible. I'm learning. I'm still a rookie at learning Hebrew. Let me go ahead and take down my logo so that way we all can read together. So, known in the English Bible as a priestly manual to the Levites, Leviticus gives voice to the way a priestly nation is to enter the holy presence of the one true living God, Yod He Vav He, or Yehovah, or Yahovah. The Hebrew name of the book highlights the narrative of Israel's spiritual journey as explained by Adonai at Sinai. Yavikra means "and he called." Though it contains many instructions for the priest, readers do well to consider how it gives important information for all. Leviticus teaches that both sin offerings and guilt offerings are required to restore the relationship between Adonai that has been cut off by iniquities, transgressions, and rebelliousness. The sin offering cleanses, and the guilt offering provides economic remedy for wrongs. The guilt offering must be a living sacrifice, a blood offering that cannot be reduced, even. Let me go ahead. Let me do this. Where was I at? Sorry. Blood offering cannot be reduced even if the wrongdoer lacks resources to purchase the sacrifice. To satisfy the lawful demands on our behalf, Messiah, Yeshua, or Jesus, as many of us English speakers call him, um, life had to be poured out as a living sacrifice. Leviticus 5, verse 11 through 13, Leviticus 17 verse 11. Yeshua's offering of his life with redemptive significance fulfilled the Torah's demand for atonement. Isaiah 53, verse 10, Hebrews 9, verse 22. And as you guys can see here, I have those verses. Leviticus 5, 11 through 13. But if one cannot afford two turtle doves or two young pigeons, then he is to bring as his offering for sin. He has committed a tenth of an ephah and of fine flour. It's like a gallon. Let's just use that. uh a fine flour as a sin offering. He is to put no oil on it, nor put any frankincense on it, for it is a sin offering. He is to bring it to the Cohen. Then the Cohen is to take a handful. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I got messages going on over here. Um, then the Cohen is to take his handful of it as a memorial portion and burn it up as smoke on the altar on Adonai's offering by fire. It is a sin offering. The Cohen is to make atonement for him over his sins that one has committed in any of these things, and he will be forgiven. The rest belongs to the Cohen, just like the meal offering. Leviticus 17, verse 11. For the life of the creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make atonement for your lives. And remember, these are all referencing Jesus. For it is the blood that makes atonement because of the life. Yet it pleases Adonai to bruise him, cause him to suffer. If he makes his soul a guilt offering, he he will see his offering. He will prolong his days, and the will of Adonai will succeed by his hand. Remember, this is also talking about the Messiah. So this is why well, before I get into my spiel, Hebrews 9 verse 22. And nearly everything is purified in blood according to the Torah. Remember, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. That's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Those are the first 5 books of the Bible. And apart from the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. All right. So this is why I don't understand why, and I love the Jews, trust me, I love them. I don't, the only thing that I got just one qualm, and trust me, I'm not a Christian by worldly Christian standards. I'm not the kind of guy that goes to church every Saturday and all this other stuff. Call me, I'm someone in the middle. I'm someone that observes the Bible as it is. And my thing is, if you're trying to get into this whole denomination fight, you're losing anyway. No matter if you're Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, Zionist, whatever. The moment you start pitching denominations, you're already in a losing fight. Just observe the Bible as is written. And again, this is why I don't understand Jews, because Jews will sit here and say, well, Jesus is not the Messiah, when everything in the Old Testament, which I hate saying that, everything in the Old Testament, everything in the Torah, everything in the writings, everything in the prophets, everything points to the Messiah. Everything does. And during Jesus' time, there was no New Testament. Everything that Jesus spoke, everything he wrote, well, he didn't write anything. Everything that he spoke, everything that he taught, everything that he decreed, everything came out of the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. Everything. That's all Old Testament. So again, and this is where I think Christians get it wrong. Christians, and I've grown up in churches, and I've had, and I've been around these Christians where they say, well, we don't really observe the Old Testament because Jesus fulfilled all that. Everything, it's all about the New Testament. Well, in my humble honesty, you can't understand the New Testament without understanding the Old Testament. You can't, it's two halves of a whole. And plus, I look at the New Testament as the Old Testament just updated. Right now I work as a junior project manager. Ooh, stuttered a bit. I work as a junior project manager. So now everything, I take a lot of old documents and I revamp them with the same language, and I just kind of jazz it up a bit. That's the way I look at the New Testament. It's really the Old Testament just jazzed up a bit for a new age, for a new people, and they're making it relevant. You're not really changing anything. And I forgot who says it. I don't know if it was Michael Rood or somebody when they talked about covenant. Um, Covenants, because the just people like to say we are under a new covenant. Well, if you really read the Old Testament, started from Genesis all the way down to Exodus and Leviticus and all that, every time they make a new covenant, it's really just the old covenant just updated. The previous covenant just updated. That's really all that's going on. So that's just me, take it for what it's worth. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. Leviticus 1, offering without defect, Parashat, Vayikra, and he called. Now Adonai called to Moses and spoke to him out of the tent of meeting, saying, "Speak to Bnei Israel," or Bane Israel. I've heard it both ways. It means sons of Israel. Speak to sons of Israel and tell them, when any one of you bring an offering, excuse me, I have dyslexia. When any one of you bring an offering to Adonai, you may present your offering of livestock from the herd or from the flock. If his sacrifice is a burnt offering from the herd, he is to present a male without blemish. Now, blemish, you can turn that into sin. So again, this points to the Messiah. He was a man born without sin. He was man without sin. He was without blemish. He is to offer it at the entrance of the tent of meeting, so that he may be accepted before Adonai. He is to lay his hand on the head of the burnt offering, so that it will be accepted for him to make atonement on his behalf. He is to slaughter the bull before Adonai. Now, and I'm going to stop right here. So when they said he is to slaughter the bull before Adonai, let's look at this imagery here, because bulls, especially in the ancient world, bulls had a lot of connotation with leadership, power, and kingliness. You know, especially in Greek mythology, they talk a lot about bulls, and they reference it to kings and Zeus and all this other stuff, even though I'm not making that connection. But there's other places, when they make images of Baal, they try to paint Baal as a bull. Anytime when you're dealing in the ancient world, whenever you see bulls, that is an image of power and kinglyship. So maybe what this is doing right here is, and I'm just taking a humble stab at it. He is to slaughter the bull before Adonai. Either that is a foreshadowing, and I think that the Bible plays 5D chess. Everybody says 4D, 3D chess. I think one meaning can mean two separate things. Either this could be a reenactment of killing the Egyptian gods, or killing Baal, or killing, foreign gods and idols. And this could also mean the foreshadowing of Jesus, the King of the Jews, the King of Israel, the King of Zion, the King of us all. That could be the imagery. That's just me. I could be wrong. Let's go with it. So slaughter the bull before Adonai. Then Aaron's sons, the Kohanim, the priest, are to present the blood and splash it around the altar, that is the entrance of the tent of meeting. He is to skin the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. The sons of Aaron, the Cohen, are to place fire on the altar and arrange the wood upon the fire. Then Aaron's sons, the Kohanim, shall arrange the pieces, the head, and the fat upon the wood that is on the fire, which is the top of the altar, but its innards and its legs he will wash with water. The Kohen shall burn it all up as smoke on the altar for a burnt offering made by fire, a soothing aroma to Adonai. See, and I don't understand why you got all these people out here talking about veganism and vegetarian, especially Christian veganism, Christian vegetarianism. I've even heard some people say, "Oh, well, Adam and Eve, they were eating fruits and berries, and we're supposed to be vegetarians." God likes barbecue, so I don't know what y'all are talking about. God said it right here. It is a soothing aroma to Adonai. I don't know about you, but anytime I'm sitting at a barbecue, it is a soothing, sweet aroma. You go past, I don't know anybody except for a self hating vegan or vegetarian that drives past a barbecue spot or can sit at the barbecue, ignore that sweet, succulent aroma, and just be like, damn, Look at that watermelon right there. That watermelon smells so good. No, you can't do it. You can't do it. And you know why you can't do it? You know why I think you can't do it? Because vegans try to make everything taste like meat. So unless, like, to me, I went on the sidebar. I'm sorry. So and I'm going to continue. If his sacrifice is from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats, for a burnt offering, he should bring a male without blemish. He is to slaughter it on the north side of the altar before Adonai. Aaron's sons, the Kohanim, are to splash his blood around the altar. He is to cut it into pieces with its head and its fat. The Cohen should then arrange them upon the wood that is on the fire that is on top of the altar. But the innards and the legs he is to wash with water. The Cohen is to offer it all and burn it on the altar. It is a burnt offering made by fire, a soothing aroma to Adonai. In our final paragraph, if his sacrifice to Adonai is a burnt offering of birds, then he should bring his offering of turtle doves or young pigeons. Then the Kohanim is to bring it to the altar, wring off its head, and burn it on the fire. Then its blood is to be drained out on the side of the altar. Also, he is to cut off its digestive tract with its filth and cast it beside the altar on the east side into the place of the fat ashes. He should tear it by its wings, but not divide it up. The Cohen should burn it upon the altar on the wood that is on the fire. It is a burnt offering made by fire, a soothing aroma to Adonai. See, God likes barbecues. God loves barbecue. See, and remember, all these offerings are to him. So every time, look, I didn't say it. The Bible said it. It's a soothing aroma. So let me stop playing and get serious. So everything that I see, and I could be wrong. I could be taking a wild stab at this. Everything that I see here points to the Messiah. You got the bulls. Jesus and bulls oftentimes point to power and kinglyship. Jesus is our King and our Lord and our Savior. We also have goats and rams. Jesus has been referred to as the Lamb. He has been. We can see in Genesis that when Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac on the altar, that God provided a ram caught by its horn. To me, I see that as a foreshadowing of the Messiah. And we also see birds. We see we see turtle doves and young pigeons, which a turtle dove is just a pigeon. You know, it's a pigeon. It's a type of pigeon. But remember, when Yeshua was being Yeshua was being baptized, the spirit, the ruach of Adonai, came descended upon him like a dove. So again, we're seeing all these images here talked about, that we can relate to the Messiah. So that is our reading for today. And as I need to take that. Dennis Berger has not. I don't think he's come out with a Leviticus book yet, but like I said, I get the Messianic Family Jewish Bible and the Jewish Learning. That's where I get a lot of this stuff from, and of course Leviticus verse 1 through 2, Korba, speak to Adonai Israel, tell them anyone bring an offering. Yeah. So let me go ahead and just bring down. Oops. Let me just go ahead and. So yeah. So yeah, we're really gonna get into the thick of this, you guys, and I'm gonna try to keep these episodes quite short, because I understand, not a lot of people like hearing about the Bible and all this other stuff. Some people have a very short attention span. I know I did at one time, but yeah, I'm not, the purpose of going through the Bible the way that I'm going through it is because this is a journey. not only for me, but for all of us. And if you guys want to join me on this journey, please just tune in every Friday. I'm gonna try to make it for around 2:30, 3 o'clock, so that way we can get in here, we can knock this thing out. Unless something happens, I'll definitely make sure that I get it in on Friday. So just stand by for the standby. But yeah, this is a learning thing for me. As especially when I go back and I listen to some of my comments or some of my thoughts, my ideas when I started this in Genesis. I was horrified, and it was a lot of, and I had a lot of questions that now I'm like, oh, stupid. That's the answer right there. But that this is all self-reflection. I'm not a pastor. I'm not someone who went to seminary school. I'm not anybody. I'm just a guy that's reading the Bible, that is word for word, line for line for himself. And I am someone, just by going back, on my previous stuff, I've seen the growth. Now, and I want you guys to grow with me. Trust me. I was not always the most devout person. I was not always the most biblical person. In fact, I was actually a degenerate for all intents and purposes. So, and I still sometimes I backslide. I'm no better than, honestly, than Israel in a lot of chances. I mean, a lot of times that I see in the Bible. I'm kind of just like them. I've complained. I've been hard-headed. I've been very stubborn. Sometimes I'm resistant to what God is telling me to do. But I've also found that as I trust and I read and I study and I research his word, there are changes that happens, and now I stand toe to toe against a lot of Christians and a lot of pastors and a lot of people who try to teach the Bible that cherry pick. I'm not cherry picking. You're not going to see me cherry pick on this show. What you're going to see me do is read the word. I'm going to spill out my ideas. I'm going to ask my questions. And I'm going to invite you guys to go on this journey with me. I may be wrong a lot of times, and I'm open to that, and I'm open to correction. But I'm by no means am I saying that I have the answers, but I will tell you what the Bible says. And just keep in mind, like, just be wary of who you're getting Bible information from. The reason why you should trust me is because I put the word up word for word and I'm reading it along with you. I'm not making it up. I'm not paraphrasing it. I'm reading it as it was written. And I use several different versions to give me a better understanding of what's trying to be communicated. I use Hebrew versions because I want to understand the Hebrew culture and why they do some of the things that they do. I'm trying to understand a lot of what's being written by getting into the minds of these people back in that time. And in no way am I sitting here saying that the Bible is outdated or that only applies to them back there. You'll never hear me say that. Now, if the Bible makes a change, we'll read it together. But we're going through this thing step by step. And the one thing that really bothers me, that I see a lot of Christians, or I hear a lot of Christians of various denominations say, is that, well, Jesus fulfilled the Torah, so we're no longer beholden to those things. And I try to tell them, you know what? That kind of thinking may get you on the wrong side of Jesus. Because as we're going to sit here and read Leviticus and we're going to read Deuteronomy and we're going to read these laws, and a lot of Jews will sit here and say, well, there's 600 and some odd laws that we have to keep. No, there's not. There may be 600 and some odd laws total, but you and I don't have to keep all 600 and some odd rules, because there's some rules that are there only for the priests. There's some rules that are only there for the judges. There's some rules that are only there for the king. There's some rules that are only there for the high priest. There's some rules that are only there for the prophets. There's some rules that are only there for men. There's some rules that are only there for women. There's some rules that are even there for animals. So if you bear with me and go with me on this journey, we'll discover this thing out together. And I'll show you the Torah hasn't been done away with. It's not, Jesus didn't fulfill and end the Torah. Yeah, he may have fulfilled it, but he didn't end it. He simply said, I did not come to end I did not come to end the law. I came to fulfill the law. So I don't know. I don't understand why Christians are sitting here saying that we don't have to. We don't have to. There's some laws that we don't have to keep, and there's some laws that we don't that we should keep. And all the laws we have to keep are in the New Testament, but they got those laws out of the Old Testament. So yeah. So it's been fun, you guys. I'll see you guys next week when we start grinding it out for another episode. I may do well because I'm going to be away. I'm going to do this episode early next week. I may do it possibly between Tuesday or Wednesday. I may get this episode done. We may do chapter 2, possibly chapter 3, depending on how long they are. As you guys can see, chapter 1 is very short. I'll see, and I'll definitely get you guys on the list. So yeah, and until then, bye.